live for the most high. Can I help a body with no miles on it? Put the spirit in me so I can't die. Tired of seeing faces with no smiles on it. We can only correct our flaws through commandments and statutes and laws. That should not kill, that should not steal. We have to follow them all. Get your understanding through the precept. Thought up online, that's the concept. Here's just a little, there's just a little. Repenting from sin is the first step. The word in my mouth like a enamel. Christ coming back like a phantom. It's harder for a rich man to get to heaven than it is to get through the aisle with a camel. Tell the children get ready for slaughter. We dropping these spiritual martyrs.
This for Esau, his sons and his daughters. For the iniquities of their fathers.
This our road to redemption. See God in repentance while praying for vengeance. Put in work out fulfilling his vision. Make the nation bow down to the remnant. All of the Anthony Oscars, foot on their neck of an Oscar. Heathens committed to treason, invited to slaughter of Basra. This ain't Big Pharma, dying no script like a doctor. Proud to be part of the roster, covered by the most high armor. It's an honor, watch their eyes of torment while they stuck in their posture. We promise salvation, they giving damnation. Vengeance granted to the saints for their patience. Follow his will, eternal life embraces. The last will be first at his celebration. Chase it, no hesitation. Send me the orders with a body of David. From the cliffs of the rock, rip out their faces. Follow God's law, receive death and payment. Romans 6:23 translated.
Tell the children get ready for slaughter. We dropping these spiritual martyrs.
This for Esau, his sons and his daughters. For the iniquities of their fathers.
This our road to redemption. See God in repentance while praying for vengeance. Put in work out fulfilling his vision. Make the nation bow down to the remnant.
We ain't preaching, we teaching to follow the law. Teach them dogs to bow down, make them follow they paw. Precept pure and uncut, give it straight to them raw. Break the script down like molecules, all just for y'all. Let I nibble like yourself, that's what you gon' do. Everything I'm saying be super just like I'm Goku. The day I said I was an Israelite, I took an oath to. Teach all of my folk to stay afloat just like a boat do. See all them phases, we went through, they didn't fear us. I'm in love with his presence and the gift he gave us. Thinking about all of them false idols that we made up. I'm still amazed at all of the graces that he gave us. Make sure that you study for yourself and don't just take the word that we say. Keep a lot of Israelites around you like a feast day. Follow all the law, despite what the pulpit precinct. The printing y'all promise, so send all of your prayers to East Way.
Tell the children get ready for slaughter. We dropping these spiritual martyrs.
This for Esau, his sons and his daughters. For the iniquities of their fathers.
This our road to redemption. See God in repentance while praying for vengeance. Put in work out fulfilling his vision. Make the nation bow down to the remnant.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. It's your brother Stephen Israel. We in the building again for another Tuesday night class of Back to the Basics. The name of the lesson tonight is Clandestine Timeline. My brother will be bringing out a lot of historical information, lining it up with the scriptures. Hey, it's going to be a great lesson. Get your pen or your pencil. Get your paper. Get you something to write with. Get you something to drink. Get you a snack. Get ready to hang out with us for the next couple of hours. It's going to be a banger. So with that being said, I just pray that the Most High is glorified. Pray that we are edified through his word. We are Order Melchizedek, Tupelo, Mississippi. We teach from the King James Version Bible from 1611, including the Apocrypha. We are not a hate group. We don't hate anyone because of their race, their religion, or their gender. We are a Bible-based group. We believe in keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God of Israel and the faith in his son, YAH'S. So with that being said, welcome to the channel. We appreciate you for tuning in. It's going down tonight on Back to the Basics Tuesday. Clandestine Timeline is a great lesson, a great title for the lesson that the brother will be bringing out tonight. I got some brothers on the panel. We're gonna chop this thing up. So before we get started, I'll introduce all the brothers on the channel. First, I want to introduce my brother Cortez, the chosen one in the building. Shalom, Hebrew.
Shalom, shalom, Hebrew. How you feeling, bro?
Man, all praise to the Most High. I'm glad to be here, bro.
Yes, sir. Shalom to you, KG.
Then I got my brother in the building, the teacher for the night, KG in the building. Shalom, bro.
Shalom, shalom, brothers. Shalom, everybody. Hope everybody having a blessed day today. Shalom.
Man, all praise to the Most High. So with that being said, I'll turn the floor over to the teacher for the night. KG, do your thing, Hebrew.
All praise, all praise. How my levels sounding, y'all? They sound good to y'all?
Yes, sir. You sound good. You sound
Yes,
good,
sir.
Hebrew.
Okay. All right, well, let's get right into it. Tonight's lesson is Clandestine Timeline. Now, I know you're probably wondering what clandestine means. Clandestine means basically um secret or hidden. This is just another word for secret or hidden. And what we're gonna be speaking on in this particular lesson tonight is basically we're just gonna dive deep into the Greek captivity, just certain things that we may have not known about it, different angles to look at it, different perspectives. Also, we're gonna carry out. I'm gonna be reading from a bunch of different sources. I'll call the sources out as I read from them, but we will also be reading from the Bible as well. But it's just a lot of information. I'm pretty sure if you haven't paid attention to the history side, man, get your pen and get your paper down. So you can go back to this a later time and you'll be able to recollect on the things that you need to recollect on. But
KG, if you can, the book that you'll be reading from, if you can cut your camera on for a minute and show your source of the book that you'll be reading out of, so everybody will know what book it
right.
is.
All right, give me 1 second. Set my mic back up. All right. The book that I will be reading from is called Biblical Events from Assyria to America, Correcting His Story to Include Our Story. And it was written by Bishop Nathaniel Ben Israel. Really good read. If you don't have it in your library, I suggest that you get it in your library. Uh, Check it out, read it from time to time. Just it got a lot of good historical information in it, a lot of different timeline things in it. I'm gonna show it on the camera right here. This is
Put it a
that
little
book.
closer, Hebrew.
Can you see it?
There you
That's
go.
better. All right,
Yeah, yeah.
great book. You can
Assyria. They say Assyria to America, don't it?
yes sir,
Okay.
yes sir. It's actually a great read right here. You can get this book on Amazon. I think it's probably like right at $40 or $50, but it's definitely a great read. Definitely a great read. I recommend it honestly. Which what we're going to be focusing on is going to be a part of the Greek captivity. Like I said earlier, just different things that when you coming into this truth, you really don't know too much about the Greek captivity. It's not really spoken of, and it is mentioned in the Old Testament, but if you're not paying attention, you'll actually overlook it. So we're going to also bring that out as well, and just a bunch of different key points that we have covered in other lessons. But in this particular lesson, we're going to bring all of that stuff together. And right now I'm gonna turn. Let me find my okay. So on page 51 in this book, it basically starts out at the Greek captivity. Um, Brothers and everybody else in the chat, let me ask y'all a question. And it's like I always do. There is no wrong answer. I just want to get everybody involved, get your brain moving for a second. Um, when do you feel like the Greek captivity started and ended? For my brothers on the panel and everybody in the chat, when do you feel like the Greek captivity started and ended? If you had to give a good guesstimate.
I'm thinking on it. I'm thinking on it, bro.
Man, think on it. Hey, take your time. Take your time.
I know, it was during the time of that wicked Edomite, Alexander the Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, it was during the, what was it? How you say that? Byzantine era.
Mm-hmm.
That was around the 14th century, I think. Around the 13th or 14th century. I could be wrong. Up until like the 15th or the 16th century. That would
Mm-hmm.
be my guess.
Brother Cortez, what is your guess, brother? That's a good guess, brother Steph.
Uh, I was kind of that now that that name crossed my mind, Alexander, but I know it had to been going on before him. I just don't have the accurate date for as a timeline.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
Shalom, brother Mikael. You want to give some input on this? When do you think it started and when it ended, the Greek captivity?
Man, I do not. I don't have a clue. 164 BC, I guess. I don't know Hebrew, but I know it was started with. Well, the Apocrypha picks it up with Alexander the Great, and he died, and and he passed that power to his generals, and evils was multiplied in the earth. That's all I know right there, Hebrew. For a date time wise, I have no clue.
You actually were closer than what you think you are. You said 164 BC. That was around the time it ended. But to answer the question for everybody, it started in 333 BC and it ended in 167 BC. Now I'm pretty sure y'all wonder why I asked this question. A lot of our people don't have like the information that y'all called out. That of course there's a lot of people don't even have that information, but it's information like this that we are not aware of because coming out of different religions, Christianity, Muslim, well, Islam and stuff like that, these things are not taught. These things are overlooked. They are not brought up. They're not mentioned. They are pushed to the wayside, in my opinion. But you got to ask yourself why. In the before you get the Bible with the Apocrypha in it, we all understand that it skips from the Babylonian captivity, so to speak, and it goes straight into the Roman captivity, which we know that well, if once you read the Apocrypha, you learn that a captivity was skipped, and that captivity that was skipped is the Greek captivity, which it makes you wonder why. It asks us a lot of questions as to why would they skip that. It has to be something in there that made them look over it, well, not even look over, but leave it out, take it out along with the Apocrypha. It was a lot of information in the Apocrypha that has to deal with or pertain to the Greek captivity that made them take it out. And if it's one thing that we haven't learned in this wicked world is that when people hide something from you, no matter what it is, when people tend to try and hide things from you, they are hiding it for a reason. And we're gonna dive deeper into the reason why. And I'm gonna just start reading. I'm gonna read a couple pages here and there, just stuff that I have run across while reading it. Um, I'm gonna start on page 53. And it reads: The original Greeks were brown-skinned children of Japhet, uh, in which we've covered that in other lessons before, like in Who's Who and the Duty of the Parents, the Israelite parents. We've covered that in that lesson. But like I said, the original Greeks were born brown skin of Japhet. The sons of Japhet were Gomer and Magog, Madai and Javan and Tubal and Meshach and Taras. And the sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz, which would later be known as the Ashkenazi, but that is the founder of of the Ashkenazi, Ashkenaz, and Rapha and Togamar. And the sons of Javan was Elisha, where it's spelled Elishah, and Tarshish and Kittim. Now Kittim would later become Rome as we know it today. And Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations. What I just read for you was Genesis chapter 10, verses 2 through 5. That's what I just read for you. But this is how this page 53 starts out and what I'm reading. And I'm gonna keep reading. I'm gonna start. Let's see. Okay. I'm gonna read this passage right here. Under the reign of Philip the second, an Edomite, which he reigned from 359 to 336 BC. The ancient kingdom of Macedonia, initially at the periphery of the classical Greek affairs, came to dominate ancient Greece in the span of just 25 years, largely thanks to the character and policies of his king. In addition, utilizing effective diplomacy and marriage alliances to achieve his political aims, Philip II was responsible for reforming the ancient Macedonian army into an effective fighting force. The Macedonian phalanx became the hallmark of the Macedonian army during his reign at the subsequent Hellenistic period. All right, now I know we run across Hellenistic, Hellenized. We run across that a lot. What that means is Hellenistic. When it's said like that, what that means is that during these captivities, well, not captivities, but during Greek captivity, this is when the Grecians ruled over the world for the most part. This was when they had control over everything for the most part. Y'all still with me? Y'all can hear me pretty good?
Yes, sir. You loud and clear,
Okay.
Hebrew.
Okay, I'll just make sure.
All right.
All right, Brother Cortez, you reading for us tonight?
Yes, sir. Whatever you need me to do, Hebrew.
Uh, if you don't mind, will you get Genesis 25, verse 21 through 34?
All right. Genesis 25. And what was that verse again?
Let's go to Genesis 25, 24 through 26. And this is just, to start out. And
All
then
right.
we can jump to 30, and I'm gonna read these next couple passages just to get a quick breakdown of where we going with it.
Okay. All right. Let me know when you're ready, Hebrew.
You can go ahead.
All right. Genesis 25 and 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau.
Mm-hmm.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bare them.
Okay,
Verse 30.
jump to 30 for me.
Okay. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Appreciate that, brother Cortez. Now I'm gonna read something else out of this book. It's called this is a reference from um another book that's mentioned in this book that I'm reading out of. The title of this book is called Proving Esau Became Known as Edom. The Rise of Christendom by Edwin Johnson, published in 1890. And it's the page that we're going to speak on in this particular book is page 208, and it writes that in the land of Rome and of Maghreb was a great empire, that of the Lonians or Greeks. King Philip was a descendant of Esau, son of Isaac. In his kingdom there was a town, Macedon, residence of the kings of Greece. In this land were the Greek sages, and all the wisdom of the world came from them. There were such as Aristotle, Hippocrates, Plato, Socrates, Hermes, Apollonius, and Agathemon. Um, I want to stop right there. Where have we all learned about those people? the Socrates and Apollonius. Where did we learn about those people from? Do y'all remember where y'all first heard those names at? Aristotle. Y'all remember where y'all first heard those names at?
I
At
heard it in
school,
psychology. That's where I remember it from in college,
Aristotle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
if I'm
Right.
not
So
mistaken.
these were things that we was taught that these men was great men, they was great philosophers and so on and so forth. But what we failing to realize what we was failing to realize at those times that we was taught these things, that these people were Grecians. We was being taught about our captivity the whole time we was in school, not realizing that the people that they was conquering was our people. And that's right, Sister Arlene and Mother Mary. That's right. We learned about that in school. And let me keep reading. Let me keep reading
They were
to
making fun of us right in our face, and we didn't even know it.
exactly. That's exactly what was going on. Let me turn the page, and I'm gonna finish out what he was talking about. In the rise of Christendom, and it reads, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that his reign and his that he reigned in his stead. This verse over. Make sure I'm not skipping a page here. Okay, this verse over the first over Greece, Salakia, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Okay, Brother Cortez, if you don't mind, will you go to First Maccabees chapter 1 and read verses 1 through 5?
All right, give me a second. First Maccabees.
Chapter 1, verses 1 through 5.
All right, all right. First Maccabees chapter 1. You said 5.
Yeah, 1 through 5.
Okay, 1 through 5. Okay, my bad. So like,
Mm-hmm.
and it happened after and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip
Mm-hmm.
the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten, excuse me, but these letters real little, smitten Darius, king of the
Mm-hmm.
Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strong battles, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over the countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die.
All right, now, Brother Cortez, now don't that then what me and you read just sounds so much similar.
Hey, yup, yup,
Wasn't we read you, but you was reading out the Bible, right?
yup, yes, sir.
You was
But
reading out
KG,
the
can,
go ahead.
can I read this other translation?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it says, after Alexander the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came from the land of Kittim, had defeated King Darius of the Persians and Medes, he succeeded him as king. He had previously become king of Greece. He fought many battles, conquered strongholds, and put to death the kings of the earth. He advanced to the ends of the earth and plundered many nations. When the earth became quiet before him, he was exalted, and his
Mm-hmm.
heart was lifted up. He gathered a very strong army and ruled over countries, nations, and princes, and they became tributary to him. After this, he fell sick and perceived that he was dying. So he summoned his most honored officers, who had been brought up with him from youth, and divided his kingdom among them while he was still alive. And after Alexander had reigned 12 years, he died.
Mm-hmm. But see, all of this is we people. A lot of people like to say that the Apocrypha is not canon. They like to say that these stories were taken out because they didn't match the Bible. But here we are. I've read something to you out of another book that has to pertain to the same thing, and yet here we are. We're in the Apocrypha, and the Apocrypha is saying the same thing that this book is saying. So how is it not canon? These are questions that you need to ask yourself, because if it wasn't canon, it wouldn't line up the way it lines up. It wouldn't sync together as perfectly as it did just then. And I'm gonna keep on reading. It says, the reason the Greeks ruled and conquered all the dark nations of the earth is because of the blessings the forefather Isaac gave them in Genesis 27, verses 38 through 40. The prophet Daniel prophesied the Persian Mede Empire would be destroyed by Alexander the Great. So this book says that the prophet Daniel prophesied the Persian Mede Empire would be destroyed by Alexander the Great. Okay, let's see. Let's see how accurate that is. Um, Brother Cortez, go to Daniel chapter 8, verse 20 through 21. Daniel chapter 8, verses 20 through 21.
All right. Hold on. I'm almost there, Hebrew.
No, no, you fine, you fine.
Daniel chapter 8.
I got it if you want me to go on and get it, Hebrew.
Yeah, you can.
You can go. You can go ahead and bring it out, Hebrew.
All right, Daniel chapter 8 and verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
See, once again, this shows that, like we said, like I said earlier, the Old Testament spoke about what was coming after the Persian Mede captivity. But once you get through the Old Testament and go to the New Testament, it skips over the entire captivity. So you never really get to understand what really happens. But once again, this shows that what we just read out of the Apocrypha correlates with what was being said in the Old Testament. Would y'all agree with that?
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
And also, Brother KG, on this encyclopedia, this Hellenistic period world encyclopedia,
Mm-hmm.
the definition of Hellenistic is exactly what you reading right there. I got it on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read it if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says the Hellenistic period is part of the ancient period for the European and Near Asian space.
Mm-hmm.
The use of this period is justified by the content of the Hellenic culture in most of these areas. Due to the Greek political presence, especially in Asia after Alexander's conquest, but also to the new wave of Greek colonization. In consequence, the Hellenistic period is usually accepted to begin in 323 BCE with Alexander's death and ends in 31 BCE with the conquest of the last Hellenistic kingdom by Rome. You see how it's tying them together?
Mm-hmm.
It says the lagged kingdom of Egypt, for the Asian part, we could lengthen it to 10 BCE when the last Indo-Greek kingdom was conquered by the Indo-Saccas. Politically, the Hellenistic period is characterized by a division and a split from Alexander's former empire, with endless wars between the Diadochi and their successors.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, the Hellenistic kingdoms weakened themselves and thus gradually created space for the competing kingdoms, such as Pontus and Bactria. At the same time, Roman power was in um, exponential expansion, annihilating other political presence in Italy, and then the Carthaginians' dominance of the Mediterranean in the three Punic Wars. At the end of the Hellenistic period, the young Roman Empire had almost reached its maximum expansion from Lusitania, modern Portugal, to Syria, and from South Britain to Egypt.
Mm.
All praises. Yeah,
So
but
that's
that
backing
look.
up
Hey,
everything you saying.
Mm-hmm.
also in the book of Enoch, Enoch, the Most High showed Enoch the time period you talking about and named it specifically dealing with Judah Maccabees and his daddy and brothers when they was fighting against the Greeks. It is called the Maccabean period in the
Mm-hmm.
book of Enoch.
All praises. I'm just seeing where I want to attack next. Like, one thing I wanted to actually bring out is like a lot of people also don't understand the timeline in which all these things happen. And as you can see on this map that's being shown on the screen, all these things were this was a part of I can't really see it. This is the land that the Greeks ended up taking over. All these different lands were by one was by Syria, well the other one was by Egypt. It was conquer. Well, it was they were in ownership of the land. That's what I'm trying to say. But the Greeks ended up taking all of this land from everybody that held it before them. So this is what their kingdom looked like to give you an idea of how big their kingdom was at this particular time. Which, if you know anything about territory, that's a lot of territory for one kingdom. Which, given the timeline, like I said, the topic of the lesson is clandestine timeline, and what we're really focusing on is just the Greek captivity and the timeline in which everything happened. And like I said earlier, the Greek captivity started from 333 BC and it ended in 167 BC. Um, so just to give you an idea, I'm gonna read a couple of these dates just to give you an idea of how things went. Um, the Greeks were the beginning of white power being united under Alexander, and I'm reading out of page 55 in my biblical events from Assyria to America. Um, but the Greeks were the beginning of white power being united under Alexander. Um, 334 BC read First Maccabees 1 1 through 7. You want to grab that for me, Steph or
Yeah,
Cortez?
yeah, I got
I,
you.
okay, go ahead.
Which, well, actually, you all you got to do. We actually just read that in First Maccabees 1 1 through 5. Just read 6 and 7 for me. But it reads that Shalaki, Alexander the Great begins campaign against Persia and defeats Darius at the river of Granicus in Anatolia, which would be Asia Minor at this particular time. This was the smaller half of Asia where this war took place. Read 6 and 7 for me, though, brother. Still.
All right. Verse 6 says, First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 6 says, So he summoned his most honored officers who had been brought up with him from youth and divided his kingdom among them while he was still alive. And after Alexander had reigned 12 years, he died. Then his officers began to rule, each in his own place. They all put on crowns after his death, and so did their descendants after them for many years. And they caused many evils on the earth.
Mhm. The evils was the spread of the Hellenization. The evils was the wars, and the bloodshed and everything that came with it. So that was in 334 BC, which we read First Maccabees 1 1 through 7. That explains that particular time period. Then as we go down, you see 333, where the actual captivity started. Alexander the Great defeats the Persians under Darius the Third again at the battle of Salaki at the Battle of Issus, capturing the Persian queen and her children. Alexander refuses Darius' offer of ransom and part of his empire. He takes the city of Tyre and after siege, and this is the end of the Phoenician Empire. And Phoenician is just another word for Persian or Mede. But Alexander and his military entered the land of Israel and marched towards Jerusalem. He was met by the high priest Jadua, clothed in light and clothed in linen and purple and scarlet, with a mitre having the golden plate whereon the name of Yahweh, which was this the letters YHWH was engraved in what he was wearing, and a multitude of priests dressed all in white garments. Alexander, having dreamed that very moment, dealt peaceably with the Jews, and the Levites sacrificed on his behalf in the temple. The priest did also show Alexander the book of Daniel regarding the great he goat that should totally smite the Persian Empire. Alexander believed it, prophesied and Slakia. Uh, Alexander, they showed him the book of Daniel regarding the great he goat that should totally smite the Persian Empire. Alexander believed it, prophesied of him. And this what I just read was if you want to find out what book this is in, the reference to what I just read is called The Antiquities of the Jews by Flavius Josephus, and this is book 11, chapter 8. I'll say it again. The title of that book is called Antiquities of the Jews by Flavius Josephus, book 11, chapter 8.
I got that book.
Yep, well, yep. See, we're like all this particular book that I am reading out of. It has all of those books referenced in the explaining of what he's trying to explain throughout the book. But let's keep going. In 332 BC, Alexander destroys the city of Tyre after siege in the Phoenician Empire. In 331, Alexander renews Persian campaign and defeats Darius III at Arbela and ends the Persian Empire. Alexander seizes Babylon. Then in 330 BC, Darius III is assassinated, leaving Alexander in complete control of Persia. In 329 BC, Alexander marries Roxana in a symbolic gesture of uniting the East and the West. 327 BC, Alexander begins his invasion on India, which if we go back to that map, it shows what we just everything that I'm going through. This is how long it took him to conquer all of that land in which he had, which we just showed the map of. And 326 BC, it says Alexander wins the battle of the Hydaspes, but his army refuses to go any further east, and he has to retreat. Let me see. We'll skip down a little bit. Well, in 323 BC, Alexander claims to be the son of Zeus, which we know Zeus is the Greek version of God to them. You know what I'm saying? This is we only know about this stuff because of him taking over and causing people to obey by his words, basically. Like they started putting their culture on us through the courses of time, because as he took over the land, he forced people to abide by what they believed in, and if not, you were killed for it. Which we're gonna get to that as we get deeper into it. But like we read in First Maccabees 1:1-7, Alexander dies of a transmitted incurable disease or an STD at Babylon at the age of
Syphilis.
33. Yep,
He had
that's
syphilis.
exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. His body is buried at Alexandria, Egypt.
The Most High
Um,
put the syphilis on
yeah, he definitely did that. He
him.
definitely did that. Alexander's empire is divided between his four chief generals, which we read that and another. Um, still get Daniel 7 and 6. I just want to read Daniel 7 and 6 to show that this the apocrypha is still correlating with the Old Testament, because this is also a part of what Daniel was prophesizing about what was to come while he was in captivity under the Persians and the Medes. Daniel chapter 7 verse 6, and this is
All right, I
basically
got
saying that. Go ahead.
All right, Daniel chapter 7 and verse 6.
Hmm.
After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl,
The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
So when you read Daniel 7 and 6, it's talking about the Alexander's empire divided between his 4 chief generals. That's what it's talking about. Those are the
They on
4
the screen right
wings.
there, Hebrew. I
Yep.
got the timeline on the screen for you right there.
Praises. Praises. Yep. That's exactly right. And you actually saved me a little time because that's exactly where I'm at. But yeah, this is exactly what happened. 323, death of Alexander. Yes, sir. 322 through 320, the first successor war between Alexander's successors. 319 BCE to 315, the second successor war. So the people he had left his kingdom to, they were fighting amongst each other.
That's right.
And this is what was going on in between these times in which I'm reading now. As you can see, there was 3 different wars between them. And by 312 BCE, Seleucus conquers Babylon and founds the Seleucid dynasty. From 312 to 63 BCE, that's how long his empire lasts. 310, assassination of Roxanne and Alexander the Fifth, or it's not, yeah, that's the fourth, Salakia, wife and son of Alexander the Great. So they was taken out, but like all this is because the people that he left his kingdom to got greedy and wanted to go ahead.
Salakia, Hebrew.
Hmm.
And also, I just want to add this, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
This goes to show the heart of that devil. You know, they can never have enough power,
Hmm.
and they the same way today.
Hmm.
You if Esau can't be in power, he'll unalive himself. Their thirst for power is so strong. You can even go on a job, because I used to work in factories right after I got out of concrete.
Hmm.
And what I learned about working in factories is one of the reasons why I got out of the factory. But the main reason I left the factory is because of our people. But the second reason was because of Esau. But you can tell it can be an Edomite in there that you've been there longer than him, and you taught him how to do his job.
Hmm.
That devil thirst for power is so strong. He'll throw you under the bus. He'll stab you in your back. Whatever he got to do to get your position, that devil gonna do it. Now, it's not just him. Because of our people being around him for so long, we've taken on the same characteristics. We the
Hmm.
same way. But the point that I'm making is he left all of these men, he broke his kingdom up and split it up. And they became kings in their own right. But that wasn't enough for them.
Mm-mm.
You
They
look
had
at
to
when they
have
came over here
everything.
when Gad was over here.
Hmm.
They took a little bit of land here. That wasn't enough. They invited more of y'all. Come on over here. We need more of y'all over here. Like Donald Trump was talking about the other countries send their worst criminals over here. That's the same thing that England and Britain and those European countries were doing when Gad was here. They were sending the thieves and the murderers and the robbers and all of them the SAs over here.
Hmm.
People that were just unruly. They sent them over here to mingle among our people to bring disease. They brought adultery. They brought RAPED, RAPE. They brought syphilis and herpes and gonorrhea and smallpox and the Black Plague. And like when they came here, these are the things that they brought with them. And they used to take the bodies of the people that had those diseases, and they would take them, and if you had a gate up or a fence up, they would catapult those bodies over the fence in there where you was at to
Hmm.
spread disease around. That was the first biological warfare.
That's
Esau
right.
been wicked, bro.
Absolutely right. Brothers, y'all got something y'all want to add in before I get back to going?
Man, I'm just enjoying the Hebrew. Hey, you teaching me some. You teaching me some.
Yeah,
Bless you.
that part Stephanie was talking about, where they'll take the dead bodies that had died from a vicious disease. That happened during 70 AD, where they'll catapult their bodies over the dead bodies over the wall of Jerusalem, and then so yeah, that's they've been doing germ warfare all the way back since 70 AD. Go ahead, bro.
So what we gotta understand is that the times in which all this stuff was going on, like we said, it's called the Hellenistic period, which actually begins from 323 BCE to 31 BCE. Um, and a lot of things like continue to go on in between that time. For example, let me see. There was another ruler named Ptolemy in 320 BC. He captures Jerusalem. Uh, then it goes, a couple other things happen, but at 311 BC, Seleucid takes Babylon, which we read that already. 307 BC, two of Alexander's generals ruled the country, Antigonus and Demetrius, both taking the title of king. Other governors followed their example. In 305 BC, Egypt, Ptolemy takes the title of king and is soon proclaimed Pharaoh Babylon. Seleucus the first becomes king, founding the Seleucid dynasty, which I just read that to y'all. So we in 300 BC, Rome becomes a major world power in the Western Mediterranean. The treaty between Rome and Carthage happens. Hellenization outside of Israel begins. Jews around the Eastern world now look to the West for trade. For trade and government was there. Jewish settlements began emerging along the Mediterranean and all the other areas. The Jewish immigrants had to learn Greek language, customs, and ideas. Let me read that again. These Jewish immigrants had to learn Greek language, customs, and ideas. Now, back in the beginning, I asked where did we learn about where did we learn about what's the word I'm looking for? Sororities. Where did we learn about Greek philosophies and Socrates and Aristotle? Where did we learn about all these things? We learned about them in school. And here it tells you that not only has this been going on in our time, but it's been going on back then as well. So this is just stuff that you have to pay attention to. This lets you know that you are somewhat in a trap and they're not telling you the whole truth, because if they was, wouldn't all this stuff sound familiar to you? Wouldn't all of it sound familiar to you instead of just a few minor details? Like for an example, like the Aristotle, the Socrates, all this other stuff. I can be honest and say that I didn't learn all this stuff in school, not the deeper details into it, and I bring this up because we always speak about um finding the deeper information that you need, using the Bible as your foundation, but using other books to get into deeper details about the things that we need to learn that the Bible doesn't necessarily directly tell us. And this is an example of this. This is how you find out stuff like this. This is how you put the rest of the puzzle together when you've already got your foundation.
That's
And
right,
this is
Hebrew.
and
That's
this
right.
is why it's important to make sure that like I explained on my other lesson, that you search for the hidden treasures. These are the hidden treasures. These are the things that they trying to hide from you. These are the things that they put in books for white eyes only, so you don't ever find it. Now all these books that I've been referencing, these are white eyes only books. These was books that was kept amongst them, so they would always know what was going on about you. But they always made sure that our people didn't get a chance to see it. And that's right, Notorious Hebrew, from their indoctrination centers. That's exactly right.
Hey, can
That
I
goes
read
back to
some,
the.
Hebrew? Can I
Go
read some
ahead.
on what you said a while ago about because you made a good point a while ago about um the what they forced us to learn their ways and their languages and their customs.
Go
Let me
ahead.
read this right here, Hebrew. In First Maccabees chapter 1, in verse 41, it says, then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and that all should give up their particular customs. All the Gentiles accepted the command of the king. Many, even from Israel, gladly adopted his religion. They sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. And the king sent letters by messengers to Jerusalem and the towns of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land, to forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane Sabbaths and festivals, to defile the sanctuary and the priest, to build altars and sacred precincts and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and other unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane, so that they would forget the law and change all the ordinances. He added, and whoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. In such words he wrote to his whole kingdom. He appointed inspectors over all the people and commanded the towns of Judah to offer sacrifice town by town. Many of the people, everyone who forsook the law, joined them, and they did evil in the land. They drove Israel into hiding in every place of refuge they had.
All praise. And what was that you read? That was First Maccabees. What, brother? Still.
First Maccabees, verse 41 through 52. And Hebrew,
Oh.
if you don't mind, let me elaborate on a little bit of this.
Go ahead.
Right here in verse 41, he said, then the king wrote to the whole kingdom that all should be one people. During the time, and I'm gonna bring this up. I'm not trying to get away from your lesson. I just want to make a point. Bring this up to the time of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and the during the Black Power movement, right? You had one side saying, let's be separate, which was the Malcolm side, and the Black Panther side. They were saying, let's be separate. But then they wasn't, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but they wasn't in the Christian church. But the only one that was from the Christian church was who? Martin Luther King. And what was he preaching? Can't we all just get along? Can't we all just, I had a dream that my little boy and my little girl would hold hands with a white man. And then they took everything we had. We didn't have banks no more. We didn't have our own stores. We didn't have nothing because they tricked us. But this is what he was talking about. The king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. This was the trick. Integration in America did the same thing, brother KG.
That's right.
And then it said, all that should give up their particular customs. All the Gentiles accepted the command of the king. Many, even from Israel, gladly adopted his religion. And this is what theologian school taught our people to do. Join hand in hand with your 400-year-old enemy. Somebody that don't mean you no good. They've been poisoning you. They've been hanging you. They've been sicking dogs on you, spraying you with water hoses. They've been poisoning you. They had the Tuskegee Airmen, where they gave them syphilis. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were doing all these things to you, Why would you want to go put your children in the schools with their kids? Why would you want to go to their hospitals? You know they already killing you. Why not stay separate? Be ye separate, says the Lord. And that was a mistake that our people made. They did it by force back then. You heard what it said. It said they either did it or verse 49 says so that they would forget the law and change the ordinances. He added, and whosoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. Back then, they did it by force. But the chains off now, KG.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do it willingly.
Yeah, that go back to that propaganda and what you was talking about, and the propaganda, the indoctrination centers, like brother sister Hebrew was talking about. It all ties together. It
That's
all
right.
ties together. And like I said, that's why you know so much about Zeus and Poseidon and give me another one, Ares and people like that. That's why you know so much
Yeah.
about them, because you
Can
had no choice but to learn about
Salaki Hebrew.
them.
That what Stephen just read. They took on the kings, or they did what the king told them to do. So Israel put down what the Most High had given them
Mm-hmm.
to take on the king's laws and ways, and forsook the festivals and all that, doing everything the heathen do, right? But did
Right.
not the Most High tell us in the book of Jeremiah, Stephen, just one verse, y'all. Give me Jeremiah 17:4.
All right, Cortez, you want to get that?
Yeah, I got it. Jeremiah 17:4. All right. I'm trying to be swift with it. Jeremiah 17:4, and it reads, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land, which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever.
See so this is why you don't know you're an Israelite today,
Mm-hmm.
because we forsook the holy covenant. Our ancestors forsook the holy covenant, and this here the Most High said forever. So this passed all the way down to this generation.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
And
All
what
right,
did
Hebrew, I
our
just want to bring
ancestors
that.
say, Mike? What did our ancestors say? Let these curses be upon who?
Our children's
The
children.
children. He said, "Let the blood be on us and our children."
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, curses.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't take it by themselves. They had to involve us.
Right.
Wow.
I know that's right. Let me I'm just gonna add on to what the foundation was already speaking on, because this, and I'm in page 60 of biblical events from Assyria to America, and it reads Hellenization. And now, Steph, tell me if this ain't everything that you just said. Hellenization refers to the spread and influence of Greek culture, language, customs, and values beyond the borders of Greece, particularly following the conquest of Alexander the Great. This process of Hellenization involved the adoption and assimilation of Greek cultural practices by non Greek populations in the regions that came under Greek influence. It often led to the blending of Greek traditions with local customs, resulting in a syncretic culture that combined elements of Greek and indigenous traditions. Hellenization played a significant role in shaping the cultural landscape of the ancient Mediterranean world and beyond, influencing art. Hellas was the Greek name for Greece, Salakia. The Jews and the founding of Alexander, Egypt. The community of Alexandria is probably the best example of what happened to the Jews under the influence of Greek or Hellenistic culture. The port of Alexandria became one of the most active commercial centers of the world, with many Jews there. They formed an important part of the community. Citizenship depended mostly upon your religion. Each city had a patron god or goddess. City festivals involved sacrificing to various deities, especially if one held an office. Jews could not participate, so they were not full citizens. Yet they could not be called foreigners because they helped found Alexandria and made it prosperous and important. The Ptolemies allowed for separate communities for Jews, such as courts, religion, or diet, synagogue, etc. They could not lead in festivals or hold a public office unless they converted to paganism or Hellenism. Ain't that what you pretty much just covered?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey,
Hey, Hebrew.
um, and
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Salakia. Now what you read is so important, brother KG, because how did they trick us through vain doctrine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they forced us to break the Sabbath. They
Mm-hmm.
forced us to eat food, unclean foods. But the way that they got it to stick, the way that they got it to stick was through the doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can force me to eat food that I don't like, but when I go home, I cannot eat it. Or you can force me to do a certain thing on the Sabbath, but if I'm at home, I don't have to abide by what you said. But if I can get your mind, if I can get the minds of your children, because the children are the future. That's
Mm-hmm.
why they know that children are so important. That's the reason why they try to poison our children's minds at such a young age. Because they know if they get their minds, it's going to go on from generation to generation to generation. That's why they use the propaganda machine. This is why they push the doctrine like a flood.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't mind, I'll bring out a precept to back it up, Hebrew.
Go ahead.
Um, let's go to Isaiah chapter 59, and I'm gonna read verse 19. And it reads, So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. See, it's the doctrine, it's the brainwashing, Hebrew. And the precept to that is in the New Testament, in the book of Revelation, chapter
Revelations.
12,
That's right.
and verse 15.
Bring it out.
It says, And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman. This water is not literal water, family. This water that they talking about is the different doctrines, the Pentecostal, the Baptist, the Presbyterian, all of it. Might put the there it go right there. This is what they were pushing, KG, because during the Grecian
That's right.
captivity, during that time period, when they came in and conquered us, what was their main goal? The main goal was to push the doctrine. The main goal was to get us to stop keeping the Sabbath, to start eating unclean foods, to stop circumcising our children. We just read it, bruh. It said, as the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. Rap music, shoot a nigga, kill his mama, shoot his grandmama house up and make her move out, kill a nigga
Preach!
without a stick. This is the doctrine.
Preach!
And this lasted from the time period that Brother KG is talking about during the Hellenistic period, all the
Mm-hmm.
way through the Roman captivity up to right now, which is still the Roman captivity. But I ain't mean to go so long, Hebrew, but go ahead.
No, brother Mike, you had something you wanted to bring out?
Oh man, I don't forgot. It was right there where you read where it said where you was reading from that they
Mm-hmm.
had to be citizens, they had to be either come pagan or Hellenistic, right?
Right.
But everything you was reading right there sound like our plight in America, Hebrew.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's
That's
what I
exactly
want to
right.
say.
Because what you're saying is in order to hold a public office in today's time, you have to look the part, so to speak.
Hmm.
And that's what you had to do back then. But it was one thing that and both of y'all brought out good points, but it was one thing that both of y'all are saying, and both of these things are going, they still go on today. That's what you were saying, Brother Mikael. But one thing that Steph said was they forced it to our kids as well. Let me read this to you just to reiterate and back up what both of y'all are saying. Uh, as Alexandria, which Alexandria is the place where they some is speaking on the place where some of our Jews, our ancestors was at, just to keep you in the loop of what's going on. As Alexandria proposed, there was more learning and philosophy than in Greece itself. The Jews were hospitable and also spoke Greek and were somewhat cultured, yet they remained Jews. Now check this out. Jews began teaching their children Greek, and second, they translated the Pentateuch and other Jewish literature into Greek to preserve the Jewish spirit.
Mm.
Okay, so we all do anybody know what the Pentateuch is? Would anybody like to address what the Pentateuch is?
Doggone it. Doggone it. I'm trying. I try to get it right. The Pentateuch would be like a scroll or what they use to preserve the teachings and the
Hmm.
scriptures that they, you know what I'm saying? It's like a Bible or whatever you want to call it. Like I guess that's what you would call it because that's a book.
Yeah, it's like it's basically like it's they're wrapped a certain way, like you said, but it's also basically the first five books of the
Right.
It's the
Bible, so to
Torah.
speak.
It's the
Hmm.
Torah.
Right, exactly. Now, what we're finna read about is the Septuagint. Now, I want y'all to listen to this as well. The Septuagint, 72 Jews, and y'all tell me what this sound like to y'all. The Septuagint, 72 Jews, six from each tribe of Israel, began translating. Salakia, 72 Jews, six from each tribe of Israel, began translating of the Bible in Egypt. 285 BC to 247 BC, the Septuagint is translated. Ptolemy had a library built in Alexandria, Egypt. It held over 20 times 10,000 books. He so desired to have all the writings of the Israelites translated into Greek language. Six elders out of all the 12 tribes of Israel, which had returned during the days of Cyrus' decree, were commanded to interpret the laws and testimonies of Israel and translate them into Greek language. What y'all think
Salakia
about
Hebrew.
that? Hmm.
Salakia. I gotta read this. Listen. First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 54.
Hmm.
Now on the 15th day of Chelsea in the 145th year, they erected a desolating sacrilege on the altar of burnt offerings.
Hmm.
They also built altars in the surrounding towns of Judah and offered incense at the door of the houses and in the streets. The books of the law that they found, they tore to pieces and burned with fire.
Hmm.
Anyone found possessing the book of the covenant or anyone who adhered to the law was condemned to death by the decree of the king. What a bomb at? What a bomb at, Mike?
Hey, I'm driving, Hebrew. I'm driving. I'm so sorry. Boom! Boom!
Oh
Hey, check this
man.
out. Check this out. Check this
Mike
out.
said
So,
boom, boom.
hey, check. Hey, check this out, y'all. Check this out. So, KG, we had to
Hmm.
preserve the writings, just like what Stefan just read, what they was doing, right? Give me
Hmm.
that's what First Maccabees 3:48 was all about. Where the heathen opened up the book of the law and went in there and changed the images and the likeness of it. So we had to go back and preserve those writings, like the
Hmm.
Pentateuch, the Septuagint, and all those
Hmm.
other books we had because they was perverting it, putting their
Hey,
own spin in there,
that's
adding their
right.
Mm-hmm.
own images and likenesses in there. But go ahead, Cortez.
I just
And now, Mike, now you talking about the Renaissance era, or the Renaissance period. This
Uh-huh.
comes later on, but you on point, Hebrew,
Right.
because they wanted to hide this information, which is why you have to get the 1611 King James Version Bible today,
Mm-hmm.
including the Apocrypha, to
That's right.
all the family in the chat. This is why we have this book right here. That's why we have this book. Because during that time when they was taking all of these things out, family, they
Hold that
took
book up
this
there.
out. They took this out. This is the Apocrypha.
And what the
So
apocrypha only means like secret books or lost books, hidden books. Go ahead, brother Steph.
Hitting things, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Hold on, Stephen. My bad. Hold on, Hebrew. My bad.
they'll say, I
My
don't
bad,
believe in
Hebrew.
that book. That ain't the Bible. But family,
Mm.
it is the Bible. It is, y'all. That's the reason why Brother KG is bringing this information out. The clandestine timeline is because all of these things happened during this time period. They were hiding things from us. They were taking things out. They were trying to hide the information from us because they no longer wanted us to recognize who we are. Because they know once we recognize who we are and we start keeping these commandments and crying out to the Most High, He's going to send His Son, Yahweh Shai, back down here. When you say your prayer and it said, "How Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven," He's
That's
going
right.
to bring the kingdom here, and He's going to bring salvation to His people, which is the 12 tribes of the house of Israel. That's why they want this stuff hid. That's why we got to wake up and get on one accord. We shouldn't be fighting discount or the Melchizedek fighting with IUIC, and IUIC fighting with Sakari, and Sakari fighting with SOG, and SOG fighting with this camp, and the Christian church fighting with the Israelites, and the Muslim fighting with the Christian church. We got to stop that.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as they can keep us divided, they can conquer us.
That's right.
This is why they can shoot down our children, pull up in a car, and in 3 seconds shoot our kids 16 times, and we can't do nothing about it. Because we won't come back to the laws of the Most High God and put our faith in His Son, Yahweh Shai. But go ahead, bro.
Cortez, did you want to bring something out?
No. Go ahead, Hebrew. You good?
Okay.
All right.
Now, as we know, as you can see in the chat, the Pentateuch is definitely the Torah or the first five books of the Bible. The Septuagint is the rest of the Old Testament translated in Greek. I just wanted to bring that out to y'all, so you would know the difference between Pentateuch and Septuagint.
Is the
Um,
Septuagint? Is it another name for it? Is it Tanakh?
mm, I want to say yes. I'm not really
Because
for sure on that.
I've heard it. I've heard it
It is.
referred
It
to it
is.
is that way,
It
but I just
is.
didn't know. Okay,
It
okay,
is.
okay,
Gonna
okay.
say
Yeah,
I
I
wanted to
got the
say it was.
Septuagint.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
See, well, all the Septuagint is when they say Septuagint, they are basically saying this is the first time that our literatures got translated into Greek. And the exact time that this happened was in 285 BC in Egypt, reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus to 246 BC. He becomes king of Egypt between 285 and 130 BC. The Septuagint or Old Testament Bible in Greek is translated. Okay. In 276 BC, Greece and Antigonus II Gonatas rules Greece. He rules from 276 to 239. Ptolemy II of Egypt invades Syria, and the first Syro-Egyptian war begins. Ptolemy II marries his sister, Arsinoe Greece, birth of elusive mathematician, died in 194. So I don't I'm not sure what this is basically saying as far as Euclid, but I know that it's saying that this was the birth of some type of mathematics that we use or have used in this future in today. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hey, can I straighten something up right quick, KG?
Go ahead.
The Tanakh is the Old Testament. It's the original. It's original in Hebrew with some Aramaic, often translated into Greek and Latin,
Mm-hmm.
arranged into 24 books, arranged into 39 books,
Mm-hmm.
same content, different division. Ends with Chronicles, ends with Malachi,
Mm-hmm.
focuses on the covenant and national identity, often arranged to lead into the New Testament. That's what the Tanakh is, Cortez.
All praise.
Okay, good looking out, Hebrew. Cause I mean I've heard it mentioned that way, but I wasn't sure. That's why I wanted to know. But good looking out, Hebrew.
So I told you wrong. It's different.
Okay. Praise.
How many people are how many people are familiar with Hannibal? How
I
many
am.
people are okay? So you're familiar. How is anybody else familiar with Hannibal?
I know a little bit about it.
Okay, well this book also speaks about Hannibal. Hannibal was one of ours, one of a fellow Israelite brother that he took it upon himself to go against the Greeks in Rome at this time, and he
With the elephants.
right, he was the man with the elephants. He's actually the guy on the front cover of this book. I'll show it one more time. He is actually the guy on the cover of this book. That is Hannibal. He decided to he was known for as an Israelite, but he was also a great war general. He spent a lot of time. He won a lot of battles. He eventually ended up being taken. He ended up losing his battle to the Romans eventually, but he was one of the first people to actually of our people to actually take a stand against them. Now one thing I want to sit here and bring out, I'm skimming through because we was at 276, and from 276 down to 237 is basically talking about the different people that came into rulership, far as Antiochus the second, which he marries Bernice, Rome, Antiochus Theos, the guy becomes king of Syria. It basically pertains to little stuff like that. But in 237, I just want to bring this point out because I feel like it's something that we have to acknowledge, understand, but also be willing to step away from. Who is anybody familiar with the names Scipio Scipio? I might be saying it wrong. Scipio Africanus.
I am.
Okay. So if you when you say if I say that I am I my
That's who
last
Africa was named after.
exactly. So when you sit here and say that you're African American, you're saying that you are a descendant of Scipio Africanus. Scipio Africanus was an Edomite.
Sure
For
was.
those that don't know, he was the Edomite that came in and took over Africa and had Africa renamed to his last name because his last name is Africanus.
And Americo Vespucci is the one that so-called America is named after.
Right. So if you call yourself African American, you are basically saying that you are ancestors of both of these Edomites. And I just want to put that out there for people who like to say, I'm African American or I'm black. Black is a color. Let's be realistic here. I'm just trying to open your mind up to certain things because these are things that we gotta these are small things that we have to break ourselves away from. Now don't get me wrong, you go to a job, you gotta fill out the job application. You're gonna put your black, you're gonna put your African American. I get that. But still with that still being said, that doesn't mean be naive and not know the truths behind these things, which they've been brought out before, but we it's always good to bring these things back up so we have a recollection of who we are and what we are not. But I'm gonna skip over a little bit. Let me see here. I think I wanted to, yeah, I passed that. No, I think I wanted to read this because yeah, I wanted to read this. I want to now this next reference that I'm coming from is coming out of the book From Babylon to Timbuktu. Um, it's from the title is called From Babylon to Timbuktu. It's written by Rudolph R. Windsor. Uh, and this is out of page 108, and it reads: The population of Carthage was derived from Palestine, and its civilization was Hebraic in origin. Nahum Sloshes is certain, after much research, that the language Hannibal spoke and in which he directed his troops was Hebrew. Now, remember, I told you that Hannibal was one of our people. So that would explain why he spoke Hebrew. There is evidence that the Carthaginians possessed a high priesthood, and their ceremonies and sacrifices were similar to the rituals found in the book of Leviticus. According to some inscriptions, the Hebrew tribes of Asher and Zebulun were in Carthage from the foundation of the city. At the ruins of Carthage were excavated many inscriptions containing many Hebrew names such as Joab, Joaz, or Joel. The city of Tunis is said to be neither Arab nor European. Tunis is a Jewish city. Nowhere else does the Jew feel at home as he does in Tunis. Slosh says so beautifully, and indeed, Tunis, the inheritor of Hebrew Carthage, is the eternal city of the Jews. For like the phoenix, the Jews have risen again and again out of the ashes of their destruction. After the sacking of Carthage, the Jews were found again in Carthage under Roman domination. After the Byzantine persecutions, I want to say you said something about that, didn't you, brother? Still the Byzantine.
Yeah, when we did the 100 Amazing Facts
Mm-hmm.
series, we talked about him and we talked about Hannibal as well.
All praises. But see that once again, that just shows you when you go looking for the hidden treasures. You see how all this stuff is adding up without
Yep.
us even trying to add it up. We ain't sitting here trying to make puzzle pieces fit together. All of it is just adding up. But I'll keep reading. They fled into the desert, and even under the persecution of the Arabs, the Jews somehow managed to survive catastrophe after catastrophe. The Jews have no idea what was coming as a result of Greek influence. At this time, a man named Jesus ben Sirach from Jerusalem wrote a book. The book that he wrote was called Ecclesiasticus and the Apocrypha on philosophy, but his philosophy differed greatly from that of the Greeks. He ignored subjects like physical universe, government, and society, and was primarily interested in giving people practical advice on etiquette and how to live. According to him, Moses and the prophets and Proverbs and Ecclesiastes give us all of the answers. The wise man was the one who had no worldly ambition and served God faithfully. He will avoid friendship with the world's ambitions and wealth seekers. So that right there, this is out of a page. This is out of the book of Babylon to Timbuktu, and this is page 108. But this is what it says, and we all know the Ecclesiasticus is in the Apocrypha. But once again, this is just another example that all these things line up. And let's see where I want to go from here.
Hey,
African.
before you go, you said it said what you read that the
Mhm.
Jews felt at home. That home in a place called Tunis, right? Tunis. How you say that?
Yeah, that's right. Tunis, Tunis.
And they felt home there. They felt they felt like that was their base, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Because I tell you, don't the Negro feel at home today in Tunica, Mississippi when he go over there? Negro feel at home over there, don't
Yeah. There's a lot of folks do feel at home over there. Let me see. Syrian War, the story of
Now that ain't got nothing to do with that.
Hey, I just wanted to had casinos back then over there at Tunis. Hey, ain't nothing new under the sun.
You're right about that.
Hmm.
I'm gonna for the sake of time, y'all. I'm gonna jump around. Another thing that Brother Stephen brought up was the Maccabean age. Well, guess what's in this book? the Maccabean age. The period between 200 and 150 BC were very important and filled with stirring events. These events forever changed the Jews and their laws, even to the present day. Brother Steph, didn't you just bring that out? Ain't that exactly what you said earlier?
Yes, sir.
Since all that happened outside of Judea, we must make mention of the ambitions and fortunes of the empires and kingdoms that controlled the world and their powerful rulers. Judea becomes a Syrian province. Remember, the Greek Seleucids ruled Syria. Syria's ambition. The Syrians desired to reunite all of Alexander's conquests. So this is when like it's basically saying that during this time period, all these things were going on in the midst of the Maccabean age. We all know that we was revolting at this time because we was tired of being persecuted for wanting to worship our God. They wouldn't let us worship our God, so we started to rebel. And this is a lot of what that's just talking about is what was going on just then. And then like I said, I'm for the sake, like if you want to just get everything tit for tat of what was going on year by year, I'm jumping around right now. Um
Before you go, all
mhm.
jokes aside, they was persecuted because they wanted to keep the Most High's commandments, right?
That's right.
Well, that right there, what they went through, that's for our
Hmm.
learning. Because brothers and sisters, we right here at the door with that right now.
Yes, sir. We most certainly
Hey, can
are.
I read it? Can I read it?
Bring it
No,
out.
but go ahead,
I'm,
go ahead,
I'm, go,
brother.
I'm going back to First Maccabees, chapter 1.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start at verse 56. It says the books of the law that they found, they tore to pieces and burned with fire. Anyone found possessing the book of the covenant or anyone who adhered to the law was condemned to death by the decree of the king. Now listen to this. They kept using violence against Israel, against those who were found month after month in the towns. On the 25th day of the month, they offered sacrifice on the altar that was on the top of the altar of burnt offerings. According to the decree, they put to death the women who had their children circumcised, and
Mm-hmm.
their families and those who circumcised them. And they hung the infants from the mothers' necks. Man, can y'all imagine that?
Hmm.
They hung their children by the neck around their mother's neck. You had to sit there and watch the last breath come out of your baby, tied around your neck. It takes a wicked devil to even conceive to do something like that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Then it says, but many in Israel stood firm and were resolved in their hearts not to eat unclean food. They chose to die rather than be defiled by food or to profane the holy covenant. And they did die. Very great wrath came upon Israel. And just like Brother Mikael was just saying, it's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
This is coming back. I'm going to tell y'all, if y'all keep up with the climate in Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, where we at right now,
AKA
with
America.
the yellow,
Go ahead.
with the orange pervert in the office right now,
That's
these
right.
devils are emboldened. Every day you look at the news, they unaliving one of our people or more than one. And it ain't just the police either. It's just the regular Edomites. They
Mm-hmm.
unaliving our people at an alarming rate. And they're trying to force our hand. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, they're trying to force us out of this country. But we know the scriptures tell us that when we leave here, we're going to leave here with great substance. Just
That's
like we
right.
did when we left the land of Egypt. They're not running us out of here without giving us our reparations, thus say the Lord. So they can do all the persecuting they want. They can do all the unaliving they want until the Messiah say, okay, that's enough. Here I come. And he gonna crack the sky.
That's right. And just
Go
to
ahead.
bag up what Brother Stephen is saying, I want to bring up another timeline fact. In 167 BC, Antiochus begins persecution of the Jews. The
Mm-hmm.
Jewish temple in Jerusalem is dedicated to the worship of the Greek god Zeus. The reference to this timeline fact is First Maccabees chapter 1 verses 41 through 64. Brother Stephen, ain't that where you just read from?
I just read it.
Just to add insult to injury about that. Uh, under Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes, a Seleucid king who ruled over the Hellenistic kingdom of Syria during the second century BCE. The process of Hellenization took on a more aggressive and oppressive character. Antiochus the Fourth sought to impose Greek cultures, beliefs, and practices upon the Judean population in Judea, leading to widespread resistance and rebellion. Unlike previous Hellenistic rulers such as Alexander, who left them in peace, and those who may have promoted Hellenization through cultural diffusion, Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes notably introduced harsh measures that aimed to suppress Jewish religious practices and enforce Hellenistic customs. In an attempt to eradicate Jewish traditions and enforce conformity to Greek culture, Antiochus violated the religious autonomy of the Jewish community by desecrating the Second Temple in Jerusalem, prohibiting the Jewish religious rites, and imposing the worship of Greek gods.
Hey, can I read that, Hebrew?
Bring it out.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 10. From them came forth a sinful root, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus. He had been a hostage in Rome. He began to reign in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those
Mhm.
days, certain renegades came out from Israel and misled many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the Gentiles around us. For since we separated from them, many disasters have come upon us. This
Mm-hmm.
proposal pleased them, and some of the people eagerly went to the king, who authorized them to observe the ordinances of the Gentiles. So they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem according to Gentile customs, and removed the marks of circumcision and abandoned the holy covenant. They joined with the Gentiles and sold themselves to do evil.
Hmm. Just hey, let me bag you up on that. Okay. Ultimately, the rebellion led by the Maccabees resulted in the rededication of the Second Temple as Second Temple Salakia and the establishment of the holy day of Hanukkah, commemorating the victory of the Jewish forces over the Seleucids and the rededication of the temple. Antiochus IV's reign and his aggressive Hellenization policies left a lasting impact on the Jewish people, reinforcing their resilience and dedication to preserving their religious and cultural heritage. Then a group of evil black Jews came. I wonder who these evil black Jews are. Let's see. But we gonna get. I'm gonna try and touch on that before I run out of time. Then a group of evil black Jews came to him and devised a plan. The high priest Onias III should be removed, and his Hellenized brother Jason was to take his place, set up a Greek constitution, and coin Greek money. The Israelite laws were to be destroyed. To Antiochus, everyone had to follow and become like Greeks. If Judaism stood in the way, then Judaism was to be destroyed. So he gave the orders. The Syrian army marched into Jerusalem, and many of the people were killed, and others escaped to the hills. Only the known Hellenists were allowed to remain. Orders were given: no Sabbath, no holy days, no circumcision. A statue of Zeus Antiochus was placed in the temple above the altar, and the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much with service, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. A power also of Syria of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. That is First Maccabees 3:41. Now we I'm getting into something that I wanted to bring up. Let me see. Uh, okay. Yeah. I'm right where I want to be. Okay, so let me read these key points under this. The most detestable animals, including the pig, were brought and sacrificed on the altar, and an abominable act was perpetrated on Kislev 25th, 168 BC, according to the book of Maccabees, that left the Jews desolate. Read First Maccabees 1, chapter 1, verse 38. This is the abomination of desolation in Daniel chapter 8, verse 13. But Jesus taught in Matthew 24:15 that this was a preliminary of the second and greater fulfillment of Rome destroying Jerusalem in 70 AD. The 70th week of Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. Antiochus, death of Judas Maccabees was 168 to 160 BC. Read First Maccabees 9, chapter 9, verse 18. Judas was also was killed, and the remnant fled. Um,
Let me read that.
Go ahead.
First Maccabees
Hebrews.
chapter 9. Go ahead.
Right quick. He said the abomination of desolation was doing 70 AD, what Christ prophesied about, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The future in our time, the abomination of desolation would be the Antichrist revealing himself in the holy place.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just throwing y'all a nugget out there, class. But go ahead, Hebrew.
That's a good point, Hebrew.
Yeah, it is.
First Maccabees chapter 9 and verse 14. Judah saw that Machias and the strength of his army were on the right. Then all the stout-hearted men went with him, and they crushed the right wing, and he pursued them as far as Mount Astos. When those on the left wing saw that the right wing was crushed, they turned and followed close behind Judas and his men. The battle became desperate, and many on both sides were wounded and fell. Judas also fell, and the rest fled. Then Jonathan and Simon took their brother Judas and buried him in the tomb of their ancestors at Modin, and wept for him. All Israel made great lamentation for him. They mourned many days and said, how is the mighty fallen, the Savior of Israel? Now the rest of the acts of Judas and his wars and the brave deeds that he did in his greatness have not been recorded, but they were very many.
All right, praises. Now I want to just bring up a holy day because like I said, I wanted to bring up timelines. I also wanted to connect the Old Testament and the Apocrypha and the New Testament all together to get people to understand once again that this is a never it's not a never ending story, but this is a story that continues. It doesn't stop at the Old Testament, then another story begins. It's a continued story from the Old Testament through the Apocrypha to the New Testament. And to prove this, I've brought you several scriptures out that correlate with Daniel, Esdras, and Maccabees, which Daniel being in the Old Testament, Esdras and Maccabees being in the Apocrypha. Now let's read this. This is called the first Hanukkah. The first Hanukkah is also known as the Feast of Dedication. Brother Steph, while I read this, get John 10, chapter 22, verses 23. Um, I'm just gonna read these key points. With singing, the Maccabean army came to Jerusalem, being in enemies' hands for 3 years. The high priest Manilius fled, as did the Hellenized Jews and all the pagan residents, just as almost 3 years earlier, the Jews fled for the hills. The temple was cleansed and the worship was reestablished. They removed every sign of paganism and destroyed the altar that was defiled by pagan sacrifices. They also ground the statue of Antiochus Zeus into dust and erected a new altar So like erected a new altar. Okay, I read that right. On the 25th of Kislev, 165 BC, they rededicated the temple and celebrated the dedication feast called Hanukkah. From Hanukkah, which means to dedicate for 8 days, just like the Feast of Tabernacles. Read Second Maccabees 1 chapter 1 verse 18. Christ honored this feast. Now read that John 10 and 22 and 23 for me.
John chapter 10 and verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. And Yahweh walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, How long doest thou make us to doubt? If thou beest Christ, tell us plainly.
Mm-hmm. But as you can see, the Feast of Dedication pops up again. We just got done reading about the Feast of Dedication. You can go back in Maccabees chapter 1, verse 18, and it'll reference it there again. But this is just showing that what I was talking about just a second ago. The Old Testament goes into the the Apocrypha goes into the New Testament. It all goes together. And when you understand that and start reading it as it goes together, you wouldn't miss the Greek captivity. You wouldn't miss the things that was going on. You would know that eating pork is a bad thing. You would know that our people was forced to not follow our commandments, our statutes, our holy days. You would understand that some of us had rebelled against the tyranny that was going on to the point where we dedicated the feast of dedication for this purpose because we fought back and we wanted to celebrate fighting back, and we was dedicated to what we believed in, what the Most High wanted for us. That's that's why it's important to, like I said, I'm saying this for the people that say the Apocrypha is not canon. Without the Apocrypha, you cannot get this information. Without the Apocrypha, and I feel like all my brothers will agree with me on the panel, but without the Apocrypha, the entirety of the Bible is not complete. Would y'all agree with that?
Yeah,
I agree. I
100%.
yeah,
agree. I agree, Hebrew.
100% Hebrew. Can I back y'all up with one script to confirm what our young brother is saying?
Go ahead.
Uh, anybody got that other translation Bible?
Nah, I think Steph might have it.
What translation you trying to get?
Well, just Acts 6:1, where it called them the Hellenistic Jews.
Hold on.
And Cortez, you read Acts 6:1 out of the KJV. Real
You
quick, so
said
KG can get to Acts 6
Acts
and 1.
6 and 1.
And let
All right.
Cortez read the KJV first, because you can miss it in the KJV without the history.
Let me know when you're ready, Hebrew.
Go ahead, Hebrew.
Go ahead and read it out of that one. I'm gonna try to find this other one.
Okay. And in those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration.
So the Grecian against the Hebrews. Now you would take that for face value, thinking about the literal Greeks, the
Mm-hmm.
nation Greeks, right? Without the history. But when you got the history, and like me and you read it, KG, we know who those Grecians are that it's talking about.
Right.
But to the person that's kind of not, unlearned, don't know about the Apocrypha and what happened during the Greek captivity, that'll go right over their head. This is why our brothers and sisters that's in the Sunday church, this is why they believe Gentiles can get in. This
Mm-hmm.
is why they believe the Gentiles can get salvation. But the whole time it was talking about the Hellenistic Jews.
That's right.
If you can't,
In the
if you can't,
in the
go ahead, Hebrew.
in the ESV it says, now in those days when the disciples were increasing in number, a complaint by the Hellenistic arose against the Hebrews because their widows were being neglected in the daily distribution.
The Hellenistic. So we know those were the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
In some translation, it would say Hellenistic Jews, but here's just in that version, it just say Hellenistic. But carry on. Oh yeah, one more thing. So, Brother Stephen brought out what KG was reading. and he brought out about circumcision, how they was killing out people for circumcision, for circumcising the boys, right? They were hanging the infants up by their neck, right, Brother Stephen?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go in the New Testament, if you wonder why in Romans chapter 3, why was Paul talking about circumcision all the time? It was because the Hellenistic Jews were not circumcised.
That's right.
That's right.
But the Jews like Paul and them, with the understanding, Paul was like, it ain't about the circumcision of the flesh, it's the circumcision of the mind.
And the
Mm-hmm.
heart.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the same thing, the mind and the heart. So, brothers and sisters, these are the little things you pick up when you start to study your history about the Greeks. And when you go in the New Testament, it'll make a whole lot of sense to you. So Paul was arguing with the Hellenistic Jews. I mean, not arguing with the Hellenistic. He was arguing with the Jews that were circumcised against the Hellenistic Jews.
Which
Mm-hmm.
would be the northern kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And that'll take you back to the scripture about the branches.
That's right.
You know, like Brother KG said, all of these scriptures tie together. You know, when you get to the New Testament and you hear Paul talking about being grafted in, and he talks about the parable about the branches being broken off. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the Hellenistic Jews, the Hellenistic Israelites from the northern kingdom, that when the split happened, Brother KG taught a lesson about the split. If y'all
Mm-hmm.
remember, about a month ago, the brother did a lesson on the split of the house of Israel.
I remember that. Yep.
The Hellenistic Jews from the northern kingdom, mostly, some from the southern too. We went off too in the southern kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
but it was mostly the northern kingdom. Came in, they were uncircumcised, they wasn't eating right, and this is who Paul was preaching to. That's why you hear Paul doing the parable about the branches, and he does the parable about what Brother Mikael was just talking about. These are the
This is
things
why.
that Paul was teaching and that Paul was preaching. But when you get to the New Testament, because our people don't do a thorough study of the Old Testament, the Torah, the what Brother KG was talking about earlier, and the Apocrypha, they skip all of that and jump straight to the New Testament and start trying to break down scriptures that Paul wrote. That's the reason why they confused.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason why when we talk about, and we're not boasting, when we talk about the
No.
understanding of the scriptures, we're not boasting. But this is what we talk about when we tell y'all about that. When you get the true understanding of the history, then when you get to the New Testament and you hear Paul and them talking and you hear the disciples talking, you hear James and Peter and all of them talking, now you understand what they talking about when they say Gentiles and strangers and sojourners and branches and all of this. Now you got the understanding. But go ahead, KG.
So
Hey,
hold on. So if the Most High would go save Jew, what the scriptures say, Jew nor Greek, bond nor free, if the Most High would go save the Greeks, then why is it in Joel chapter 3 he gonna sell the Grecians into captivity in the last days?
Mm-hmm.
Cortez, you had
Make it.
something. You were going to say something.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Cortez.
I was just gonna back KG up when he was talking about the scriptures out of the Apocrypha being canon. It's two instances in the 66 where they mention a chapter out of the Apocrypha. If you go to Joshua 10 and 13, it reads, "And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is it not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of the heavens, and hasted not to go down about a whole day." So in order to find out what happened right there, you would have to go to Jasher to see, right? It said, "As it is written."
That's right.
As is
That's
okay.
right.
Then the second instance is in 2 Samuel 1 and 18, where it mentions Joshua again. Because you always got to have two witnesses. Okay, and it reads, also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. So there we have it.
All praise.
That proves that the Apocrypha is solid.
All praise. Now, I just want to. I'm closing when I bring out these last statements. Chat. I know I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of talking. I got to for you to get the full idea of what is going on. I also want to say I appreciate my brothers for bagging me up with the scripts, and we bouncing off of each other to prove the points that we need to prove. I just want to bring out these key. I just want to bring out this last key point, and then we'll be closing on the far as I felt everything like that we need to discuss about the Greek captivity. I try to go over as many important facts as I could to get people to understand. But one thing I want people to understand, and this is going to be the nail in the coffin. Um, and I'm gonna ask a question. Can anybody in the chat tell me where the Sadducees and the Pharisees started? I'm gonna give y'all like 30 seconds. Brothers on the panel, if y'all know, you know what I'm saying, feel free. But can anybody tell me where the Pharisees and the Sadducees started? Because when you jump into the New Testament, they're already established. So the question is, when did they start? Sister Arlene said Matthew. You
They
not
started. They started at the. Oh, go ahead. I ain't gonna give it away.
no
I
no
know
no
what's gonna.
no no go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
They started at the end of the Greek captivity, going into the when Rome was taking over, getting ready to take over the Greeks, and they absorbed them, becoming one people, one nation.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when Herod and all. That's when those heathens start become. Uh, that's when our people started to teach them Judaism and all of that, the history. But that's where the scribes and Pharisees started between the end of the Greek captivity going into the Roman captivity.
That's right. But see, you wouldn't know that unless what? And Brother Eliyahu, you hit it right on the head. Sister Arlene, you wasn't far off. What you said is actually right. That's when you first hear about the Pharisees and the Sadducees, but they actually started during the Maccabean time period, in which is the same period in which Brother Mikael is just bringing up. But the actual forming of these groups started during the Maccabean uh period. I'm saying that because once again, this is another thing that proves how important the Apocrypha is, because you wouldn't know that unless you did the proper research. Um
I
and
got a question.
Go ahead.
Why did the Pharisees start?
I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, okay.
All right, so John Hyrcanus, son of Simon Maccabeus. So John Hyrcanus was the son of one of the Salaki was one of the sons of the Maccabean brothers. Simon Maccabeus was his father, to be exact. So John Hyrcanus becomes a high priest in Jerusalem. Uh, becomes high priest in Jerusalem. Rules to 104 BC. John Hyrcanus' reign began the policy of territorial expansion. The goal was greater national prosperity. The pagan cities that surrounded Jerusalem had controlled the commerce previously and hated the Jews. When Syria ran into problems again, John Hyrcanus recaptured the cities and developed Jewish commerce. John Hyrcanus became the next ruler, and the Syrians agreed with him rather than the Hellenizing Jews. Hyrcanus promised to be an ally to Syria and to give up the pagan cities except Jaffa, the famous port city. The Hellenizing party now disappeared from the Jewish scene. All right, so now we're going to get into the policy of expansion. And just follow me on this. I need y'all to follow me. All right, so the policy expansion is called, reads, he soon conquered Edom on the great trade routes between Egypt and Asia. To assure their loyalty, Hyrcanus compelled the Idumeans, Greek word, which is the Greek word for Edomites, to adopt the laws and customs of the Israelites or be forced out of their homeland. They agreed and became Jewish. The Jewish people of today are their descendants. I wanted to stop. I'm gonna stop right here real quick because this what I just read is so important because this would later bring in people like Antipater, later bring in people like Herod, later bring in people like Herod the second or Agrippa. These are
Punch a
how the
pilot.
Right. These are how these people became these are how these people came to play in the New Testament because of John Hyrcanus ended up taking control back of all the lands in which we had lost control over. So they either had to abide by our laws or lose their homeland. So they chose to abide. Them choosing to abide turned them Jewish. To be ish, if I say that you're a childish, I am saying you are acting like a child. I'm not calling you a child. I am saying you're acting like a child. So to be Jewish, you're not a Jew by blood, but you was converted. That's
Sort
basically
of,
what it's
like,
explaining.
sort of like.
Exactly. 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 But let me keep going. The now in 130 BC, well now 133 BC, Rome, also known as Kittim, begins to expand her empire eastward. 130 BC, the Pharisees begin to emerge as a sect. Now, what we got to understand about that particular statement is that in 130 BC, Christ is not born. In 130 BC, we are not in the New Testament. Just keeping that in mind for y'all as we get deeper into the information. 120 BC, John Hyrcanus repudiates the Pharisees and declares himself a Sadducees. So there you have it right there that these the Sadducees and the Pharisees was formed way before Christ got there. And the thing what we have to understand about the Pharisees and Sadducees is uh kind of like the NCAA, NCAA. Well, I can't even say it. NCAAP. I think I know I'm saying it wrong, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. It started out as a good thing, and now it's not good anymore. That's what happened to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. It started out as something that was supposed to be good, and it ended up turning into what it was by the time Jesus came. Well, until by the time Yahweh Shah came. That's why he called them a wicked generation who searched for a sign. The NAACP. Thank you, Sister Arlene. That's exactly what I was trying to say. I appreciate that. But that's just the example that I'm giving. It started out as something that was supposed to be considered good, but when the wrong generation, which this goes back on many lessons that Brother Stephen brought up, when the wrong generation comes into play, the curses can start over. When the right generation is in play, everything goes how it needs to go. But if the wrong generation is in play, the curses start over. And this is kind of what happened with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They were meant for good, but they ended up being evil by the time that Yahweh Shah came into play. Which we all know that because we read that in the New Testament. But let me just give you a few more. Let me give you a few more.
Don't lose where you at, cause I need to come back to that, cause I need to show some scripture in the Bible before we go. I got to show that
We
where the
we at the
Pharisees or
we
Edomites.
we at the 2 hour mark. Y'all go ahead.
Okay,
Man, come on, man.
I'm gonna finish it up.
Go
I'm gonna
ahead.
finish it up.
Man,
Uh,
I got to let us know, Mike.
okay. Well,
Go ahead.
Michael,
I
you
ain't
want?
rushing you, Hebrew. Go ahead.
All right, all right. The Pharisees, two political parties emerged. The scribes were opposed to expansion. The scribes who were opposed to expansion was the Pharisees from Parash to separated from pagans or separated from those that favored expansion. The Pharisees, spiritual descendants of the Hasidim, argued that the religion saved the Jewish people. Therefore, everything must be subordinate to the religion. They did not want to force, but to persuade by example. The Sadducees, those who remained in complete charge of the government, were the Sadducees. They claimed to be descendants of Solomon's high priest Zadok. Zadok also means righteous, so it means righteous ones. The Sadducees argued that national power had saved the people and their religion. They were not opposed to Judaism and were for the forcing of Judaism on the pagans. So one side wanted to lead by example, the other side wanted, the Sadducees wanted to force it on people. The Pharisees and the Sadducees differed somewhat in religious views, which we learn that in the New Testament as well. And to give me a reference, Acts 23 and 8, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Acts 23 and 8. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. The Sadducees were in favor of a strict interpretation of the Torah, willing to obey all. They don't believe in a resurrection, angels, or spirit. The Pharisees were a liberal interpretation, general truths and principles that wanted to extend these principles to every phase of life. They argued that there was also an oral Torah and set of traditions that had been handed down to them by the former scribes, who received from their predecessors all the way back to Moses. They believe in resurrection as angels and the spirit of man. The 1 year reign, 104 BC of Hyrcanus, oldest son Judah, showed the Pharisees what they were to expect. Now, I just wanted to bring this out because, well, let me went to work on the Jewish. If you want to learn more about it in detail, uh, I advise that you get the book. The book is called Biblical Events from Assyria to America, correcting his story to include our story. Now, I'm gonna have to, and Mike, I'm gonna let you get the point that you wanted to bring out,
But you
but
doing a series though, right?
that's what I was just going to say.
Okay.
This was based on strictly Greek captivities, but it was certain things that I have read during the Greek captivity that is going to roll over into the Roman captivity. For an example, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and also another thing that will roll in is the John Hyrcanus forcing the Edomites to become Jewish. This is going to play a role in Roman captivity as well. So it's important that, like I said, that I'm bringing this stuff out to show the connection between the Old Testament, the Apocrypha, and the New Testament. And it's important to read all these things so you can get the full you can bring out the so you can get the full interpretation of what's going on. And as we have shown in many different examples in this lesson, it is important. It's important to have your foundation. It's important to search out the other gems because some of the things that I have brought out tonight are not, they're not, it's not going to tell you tit for tat the way it would in this book in the Bible. So that's why it's important to do your research like we always tell y'all to do for reasons like this. And brother Mikael, go ahead and bring out what you wanted to bring out.
Bro, that part where you read about the Edomites being Pharisees, can you read that particular part, Brother Stephen, real fast? Give me John 8:30 through 34.
All right. John chapter 8 and verse 30. And he spake these words. Many believed on him. Then said Jesus to the Jews, which believed on him, if ye continue in my words, then are ye my disciples indeed. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They answered him, we be Abraham's seed, and were never in bondage to any man.
Stop.
How sayest thou, ye shall be made free?
Why would the scribes and Pharisees say we never been in bondage, but Israel been in bondage in the Greek captivity into the Roman captivity? Why is they saying they never been in bondage? Because those was white folks Christ was talking to. Now read verse 44.
All right. Verse 44. Ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your fathers ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it.
Psalms 58:3. The wicked is estranged from the womb, soon as they be born, speaking lies. So these was Edomite scribes and Pharisees talking to Christ because they gave themselves away in this particular scripture, but you wouldn't catch it if you didn't study the history. These was
Mm-hmm.
Edomite converts into Judaism
Mm-hmm.
because they said we never been in bondage. And then another part you can go back. All right, we ain't got to go there. It's when Christ and Pilate was having the talk. When Pilate washed his hand of Christ and turned him over to the Jews, Pilate told Christ, "Am I a Jew?" Why would he say that? Because he was one of those
He was being funny.
converts.
Hmm.
He was one of those converts.
But
I just had to,
that was a dead giveaway. When they said about we never been in bondage.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep, that was a dead giveaway. Go.
yeah. I just wanted to bring that out. 'Cause when he said that, and the chat heard what my brother read out that book he got. That was Edomite converts into Judaism. And then they gave it away right there in John 8:33, where they said, we never been in bondage.
All praises.
And they said, we be Abraham's seed. Did not Edom, did not Esau come from Abraham's seed?
He did.
Okay, then. I rest my case, Hebrew.
And Ishmael did too. All praises.
But as we close, like I said, I will be doing two more parts to this. I hope everybody was able to gain something from it tonight, get a better understanding of what happened, what's going on, how it still correlates with today. I hope everybody was able to understand that it's important that the Old Testament and the Apocrypha and the New Testament all tied together. And the sooner that you understand that, the more simplified it becomes to understand what's really going on. So I hope the lesson was edifying for everyone. I hope you do some more research on your own. Man, get the book. You can find it on Amazon. I think it's I know it's no more than $50, but it's a great read. Put it back up on the screen for y'all again, just so y'all can get a good look at it. But it's a great read. I recommend it, especially if you like history, especially if you want to know down to a detailed fact about what's going on during the times, well, before the times of the Most High, and during the times of the Most High. So definitely recommend it, and I just appreciate my brothers for being in with me, throwing those precepts out when needed. So like I said, I hope the lesson was edifying, and I close.
Yeah, y'all get that book. He just chat. That book is a cheat code for you.
Hmm.
Another
Definitely a
thing,
cheat code.
um, y'all hit the like button. It don't cost anything to hit the like button. Like, share, and subscribe. Great lesson, Hebrew. Man, I'm talking about, man, you boy. That's a good one, Hebrew. That's a good one.
All
Um,
praise.
I really enjoyed it. Somebody can do the shout outs if you want to.
Yeah, Cortez can do it. He done nothing.
Mike, come on
I
now.
should be messing. I should be messing with Cortez.
Hey, I'm gonna save my comments for afterwards. But anyway, all right. Let's see. Let's see what we got. Let me go to the top. Oh man. All right. Mother Mary. Shalom to you, Mom. Who else? Sister Arlene Foster. Shalom to you. Shadaraya. I hope I said that right. Shalom to you, sis. Who else? Sister Mary Dukes. Shalom to you. Sister Jim, shalom to you. Arlene Foster, shalom to you, sis. Who else?
Sister Alexis Grice was in here.
Okay, Sister Alexis Grice, shalom to you. Sister Cindy Carr, shalom to you also. Notorious Hebrew, shalom. Let's see who else. I'm scrolling. Eliyahu, shalom to you, Aunt. Who else in here? How y'all say that name? Kahalia? Am I saying that right? Kahalia? Kalia?
Kalia, man.
Kalia. Okay. Hey, excuse me, sis. Shalaki, my bad. Shut up, Mike. Sister Brenda Hill, shalom to you. And who else? That's all I got on my end, y'all. On the YouTube side. If I missed anybody.
All praises. And shalom to everybody that was here that didn't say anything. We appreciate you tuning in. Brothers and sisters, don't forget, we doing the fundraiser for the children at the end of June. We put the Cash App on the screen. There go the Cash App. If you feel like you led by the Spirit to donate, it'll be a great help. And I want to say thank you to everybody that have already donated. The last time I talked with Sister Bashan and did a check, we were up to over $400 already. So, man, it's greatly appreciated to you brothers and sisters that's already donating. Man, look, we're gonna do something great for the children. Hey, y'all know we're gonna go live, so y'all definitely get to see it. We'll go live so y'all can share in that day with us as well. We'll show you where your funds going. Y'all know us brothers on this channel. We don't ask y'all for nothing for our personal gain. Also remember the feast coming up. Everybody make preparations for the feast. Get ready, get prepared. The elders, we spoke with them on yesterday. They excited about the feast. So, hey, we looking forward to seeing everybody. And, man, we just appreciate y'all tuning in. Brother KG, great lesson, Hebrew. You getting gooder and gooder, Hebrew.
Oh, praise it, brother. Praise.
All right.
You know that's not a word, don't you?
So with that being said, man, we're gonna head up out of here. I'm trying to find where I want to take us out. There we go.
Hold on, wait. Hit it, KG.
And this has been another episode of Back to the Basics Tuesdays. DJ, who's there?
I was lost trying to figure out where I began. Drowning in sin till I ran into Isaiah 28:10. Thought change the man within, removing devilish friends. Trusting in God, saw it coming while they stick to the trends. Looking at life through microscopic optics, magnifying my lens. Confounded pretender beats tendencies who tend to reading, overlooking the most high in his skin. Or forgetting Romans 9:1-14. Paul was talking about his kin. And who Yahweh really hate to the end. Surrounded by lions like I'm Daniel in the den. The pastor's line got you tithing again. Lawless ones got you worshiping them pagans with blend. The most high say I knew you not, what you gon' do then? Praying in the hour, devour our enemies with your prophecies. Trumpet sing when the blood in the wind. Let every Israelite say amen. Let every Israelite say amen. And keep on. I'm hanging on by faith. I ain't never giving up. All praise go to Yah. We can't never give enough. When circumstances beat it out, he come through and pick you up. Built to make it through the pain. That's just how it's given to us. I'm hanging on by faith. I ain't never giving up. All praise go to Yah. We can't never give enough. When circumstances beat it out, he come through and pick you up, built to make it through the pain. That's just how it's given.
See the Jets, and that's our quarterback. The 12 tribe broke the rules and got a flag. Now we trying to get our order back. Too many players in the game, illegal formation. We couldn't afford to get our king sacked. 4th and 10, all go is when he died for y'all Sarong. Call that a 3-step drop back. We holding on like a baby sloth. Cause he saw Crafty running trick plays. He always trying to throw us off. My face solid like a foundation. Found out the truth and caught an audible. Now we changing up the formation. Israel holding on like in vogue. Internalizing all this hate for need captivity got me about to implode. My stick gon' block her when in beast mode. Screaming Netanyahu right before we drop this payload. I want my faith and not my sight. I don't need no escape. We ain't starving over here. We bite on no face.
Hanging on by faith, I ain't never giving up. All praise go to Yah. We can't never give enough. When circumstances beat it out, he come through and pick you up. Built to make it through the pain. That's just how it's gives us. Hanging on by faith, I ain't never giving up. All praise go to Yah. We can't never give enough. When circumstances beat it out, he come through and pick you up. Built to make it through the pain. That's just how it's gives us. Hanging on by faith, nigga, I'm hangman. All praise go to Yah, I'm not the same man. Well, the weather them Edomite came and dropped us off in this strange land. That's why I wouldn't kick it even if I was karate kid and I was standing in the crane stand. When y'all found me, I was out there soaking wet like I had been doing the rain dance. Ain't no episode of Mr. Rogers that can teach you the same shit that the pain can. Boy, it came through, made me brand new like he clean me up with a drain pan. Made me focus, got me ready, helped me steady my aim hand. When he'll put me down, boy, he picked me up. Gave me new sight, repentance, equal reinventance, and that alone now can give you new life. But I still got a whole lot of scars, gotta heal, cause the nigga done been through a few fights. But I know now if you do right by me and I do right, it make us two right. But I know the goal now, I see the finish line. I done lost faith so many times, cause the world is set up so the sun shine. But I'm in the winner circle, can't let the devil trick me out of my place. Never let up so I steady my pace, keep hanging on and put trust in my faith. I'm hanging on by faith, I ain't never giving up. All praise go to Yah, we can't never give enough. When circumstances beat it out, he come through and pick you up. Built to make it through the pain, that's just how it's gives us. Hanging on by faith, I ain't never giving up. All praise go to Yah, we can't never give enough. When circumstances beat it out, he come through and pick you up. Built to make it through the pain, that's just how it's gives us. Hanging on by